In this tutorial we'll create this DNA animation. Click subscribe and let's get started. First, we go to the Geometry Nodes editor. Click New and delete the group input. Add a curve spiral primitive and connect it to the input. Let's set the end radius to 1 meter and the height to 15 meters to get the first DNA line. Here we add a join geometry node and a transform geometry node. Connect the same spiral to the transform geometry node and attach it to the join geometry node. And we'll enter the rotation value along the z-axis as 180 degrees to get the second DNA helix. In order to connect both lines with linking segments, we add another join geometry node and connect a resample curve node. And connect it with the join geometry. Let's enter 2 to get a straight line. To move it to the very center, we'll add a transform geometry node. And in the X field enter the value 1. This is the radius of our spiral. Next, add a resample curve node and set the value to 30. Now let's create lines on these points. To do this, add an instance on points node. And as the instance, add a curve line primitive. Enter the start value for the x-axis equal to -1, and enter the end value for x equal to 1. Set the z value to 0. Now, to make the lines twist in a spiral, we'll add an align rotation to vector node. And as the vector, we'll connect our spiral, which has information about the direction of the vector we need. Let's add a curve sample node. And we use the value of tangent as the vector. Now let's add a spline parameter node. And connect the factor to the factor. Now for the rotation, we select the y-axis and fix the z-axis. This way we'll get an ideal DNA helix. I'll put all this together into a group. Next, we'll give our curves volume. For that, let's add a realize instances node. And here we insert this node after our instance on points so that each line becomes a unique curve. Next, let's add a curve to mesh node. For the profile, add a curve circle node. Let's reduce the resolution to 12. And enter the radius as 0.1 or even less. Next, we'll add a node distribute points on faces. I'll enter density 100 to arrange the particles more densely. Now let's add an instance on points node. As the instance, we'll add an icosphere node. Set the radius to 0.05, subdivisions to 2. Next, add a set shade smooth node to make our spheres smooth. To add some variety to the scale, let's add a random value node. Now the scale changes along different axes because we use the random value in vector mode. In order to preserve the spherical shapes, switch the node to float mode. In this way we change the scale while maintaining the overall shape. Next, we'll create a rotation animation. For that, add a transform geometry node. Let's connect a combine XYZ node to the rotation. We'll rotate around the Z-axis. So, we connect a scene time node to the Z-axis, the frame parameter, and connect a map range node. Here we enter the length of our animation in frames. These are the values from frame 1 to frame 250. And during this time our animation will complete a full circle. That is, we enter the value, pi multiplied by 2, which can otherwise be written as tau. Now, if we press the spacebar, we see how the spiral rotates around its axis. And if we want to speed up the animation, we'll add a math node in multiply mode. And here we multiply, for example, by 2. This result suits me. I'll combine the nodes into groups for more convenient navigation. At the end I'll insert a realize instances node and a set material node. As the material, let's choose the only material we have in our scene. Let's switch the viewport shading and set up the render. Here we select cycles, GPU compute. I'll reduce the number of samples. Check the denoise box. In the color management section, select Chronos PBR for richer colors. Look in medium high contrast mode. Next, let's switch to the camera. Press the lock so that the camera moves along with our view. Let's turn the camera so that the light is above and behind our object. Make sure the light source is outside the frame. You may rotate the object itself and adjust the scale so that the DNA chain looks harmonious in the frame. Let's go to the light settings. Here I pick blue color and set the power to 10,000 watts. Let's select our object and go to the shader editor. Select the world type. Delete the background node. Add a volume scatter, connect the volume sockets. Set the density to 0.002. And now to set up the shader, let's go to the Object section. Add a geometry node. And we'll use random per island as a basis to make several different groups of materials. We use this parameter to create an emission. Let's add a mix node and connect our random per island as the factor. Some of the spheres will glow. For that, set the B value to 20. Let's add a color ramp node and switch it to constant mode. Now, by moving the slider, we can control the number of glowing spheres. Let's set a warm glow color. And using the slider, we may select the appropriate value so that the picture looks interesting. Now we'll make some of the spheres transparent. To do this, add a mix color node. Let's connect the color as the first color of our mix color node. Here we also insert an invert color node and connect the result to the transmission weight value. Let's also connect our random per island as the color B in the mix color. Here we set the blending mode to multiply. I'll set the factor to 1, that is 100%. Duplicate our color ramp node. And set the roughness value here to 0.05. Now, by moving the slider, we may control the number of transparent spheres. And finally, let's add an effect in the Compositor. For that, first enable the display of Compositor effects in the camera. Now let's move on to the Compositor. Check the Use Nodes box. Add a glare. Here let's set the streaks to 2. Adjust the fade and strength parameters. So this is the result we've gotten. Thanks for watching. If you liked the tutorial, subscribe to the channel, like the video or leave a comment. I would appreciate any interaction from you. It will help promote this video. And see you later.